The sound of her own breath terrified her. Every inhale scraped like gravel against her throat. The Oklahoma sun blazed across the plains until the sky itself seemed ablaze. And in the middle of that scorching emptiness, a young woman staggered through the tall grass, clutching a filthy rag against her body. Her bare shoulders shook. Her skin was streaked with dirt and tears. Emma Reed had not meant to run. She had meant to survive the night. Her sister had died only a week ago, and the house that once held laughter now held silence and danger. She still heard her sister's voice in the walls, sometimes soft as a whisper. Every creak of the floorboards made her heart pound, half expecting to see her again, half dreading it was Harlan instead. Her brother-in-law, Harlan Boss, had turned into something she no longer recognized. The stench of whiskey trailed him like a shadow. He told her she should be thankful he took her in. But last night, when he grabbed her arm and yanked her close, the truth shattered every illusion she had left. She had fought him. She had screamed. And when he ripped at her dress, she snatched the closest thing she could find, the old dish rag hanging by the sink, and bolted into the darkness. That evening, she overheard Harlan muttering with a turncoat named Slade at the kitchen table. The deal was set for dawn, so she fled before the night ended. Now she was miles away, barefoot, bleeding, wrapped only in that tattered rag. Her shoulder throbbed where a bullet had grazed her as she escaped the shack. The smell of gunpowder still clung to her hair. By midday, she could barely stand. The wind whipped dust across the plain, stinging her eyes. Her vision blurred, and through the haze, she saw a rider approaching. A man on horseback, tall, broad-shouldered, his silver beard catching the sun. His horse slowed when he saw her collapse near the Cimarron River. Cole Brennan had been herding strays when he spotted the figure in the grass. At first, he thought it was a wolf carcass. Then the rag shifted, and he saw pale skin beneath the grime. He leapt down, his boots sinking into the earth. The woman tried to push herself up, clutching the rag tighter around her chest. "Please, don't take the rag off," she gasped. Cole froze. The words hit him harder than the heat. His eyes were wide, wild, full of terror that didn't come from pain alone. He saw enough to understand something awful had happened. He shrugged off his coat, draped it over her carefully, and spoke low, steady. "I ain't here to hurt you, ma'am. Just hold still." With the edge of his knife, he sliced open the blood-soaked corner of the rag near her shoulder. He cleaned the wound with water from his canteen, pressing gently, never once uncovering more than he needed. She trembled, murmuring prayers under her breath. When he lifted her into his arms, she didn't resist. The plains wind howled as they rode west toward his ranch by the river bend. Behind them, the tracks in the dirt led back towards the shack she had escaped. Somewhere out there, Harlan Voss was following, and in the quiet between her heartbeats, one thought kept echoing. Had she truly found safety, or just another kind of danger? By the time they reached the ranch, the sun had melted into the horizon. The air smelled of hay and dust, and the sound of crickets echoed across the empty field. Cole lifted Emma down from his horse, gentle as if she were made of glass. Her legs buckled the moment her feet touched the ground. He caught her, steadying her with his rough hands.
A lanky ranch hand named Will was repairing a bridle near the barn when Cole arrived. The boy looked up, startled, then tipped his hat. Cole waved him off with a nod. "Give us space, kid." Inside the small log cabin, the air was cool and dim. A single lantern flickered on the table. Cole pointed to the cot near the fireplace. "Sit here, ma'am. I'll fetch water." Emma nodded, too weak to argue. When he returned with the tin basin, she sat quietly while he cleaned the wound again. He spoke little, only enough to keep her awake. "Name's Cole Brennan. This here's my place. Ain't much, but it's safe." She looked around the room, eyes softening for the first time that day. It was a simple home. A rifle above the door, a saddle on the chair, a faded photo of a woman and a little boy on the shelf. Cole caught her staring. "My wife and son, both gone. Fever took 'em years back." Emma lowered her gaze. "I'm sorry." He shrugged. "World's cruel sometimes, but it's got its moments too." For a moment, some stillness filled the room. Then Emma whispered, almost afraid of her own voice. "It was my brother-in-law. He tried to sell me, said I owed him for the roof over my head. When I fought him, he tore my dress. I ran before he could finish what he started." Cole's jaw tightened. He poured whiskey on a cloth and pressed it against her shoulder. She flinched, biting back a cry. "Evil like that don't deserve breath," he muttered. Outside, thunder rumbled far in the distance. The smell of rain drifted through the window. Cole pulled another blanket over her and moved to the door. "You can sleep here tonight. No one will touch you under this roof." Her eyes followed him, studying his face in the lantern glow. For the first time, she believed his words. As the night grew quiet, Cole sat on the porch with his rifle across his knees. He stared at the dark line of the horizon, where lightning flashed miles away. In the faint light, he could almost see a rider far off, a figure moving slow but steady along the trail. Maybe it was nothing, but the feeling in his gut said otherwise. Inside, Emma stirred in her sleep, whispering his name like a prayer. And outside, the wind carried a sound too soft to be thunder. It was hoofs. Was Harlan already on his way? In her sleep, Emma dreamed of the shack again, the sound of boots on wooden floors, the door creaking open. Then the snap of a match and his voice saying her name, slow, slurred. She woke with a gasp, clutching the blanket, the echo of that nightmare still crawling down her spine. The night had passed quiet. Too quiet. By morning, the air hung heavy, with that strange stillness that comes before trouble. Cole was up before sunrise, feeding the horses, when he saw dust rising from the far ridge. It wasn't wind, it was a rider. He squinted into the distance, and the shape became clear. A man in a black coat, riding fast, a pistol glinting at his side. Cole's hand moved to his belt where his rope hung loose. His gut told him this was the trouble that girl had run from. Inside the cabin, Emma sat up on the cot, her eyes wide. She had heard it too, the slow rhythm of hoofs on hard ground. "That's him," she whispered. "Harlan." Cole stepped onto the porch, his boots crunching against the dried dirt. He didn't bother to reach for his rifle yet. He just waited.
When Harlan pulled up in front of the house, his horse snorted, and dust covered his boots. "Well, well," Harlan said with a crooked grin. "You found something of mine, old man." Cole's voice was calm. "She ain't yours." Harlan laughed. "She's my kin, my responsibility. But you hand her over, and we'll forget this ever happened." Cole spat into the dirt. "I don't make deals with scum." The grin faded from Harlan's face. His hand twitched toward his gun, but Cole was faster. The rope whipped through the air tight around Harlan's wrist before the gun cleared the holster. He yanked hard, and Harlan hit the ground with a curse. Cole walked over slow, boots steady, eyes cold. "You got two choices," Cole said. "You ride out of here and never come back, or I drag you to town and let the sheriff deal with you." Harlan gritted his teeth, brushing the dirt from his face. "This ain't over, rancher." Cole stepped closer. "It will be, if you're smart enough to leave." Harlan climbed onto his horse, glaring back once before turning toward the trail. Emma watched from the window, shaken. Cole closed the door behind him and set the rifle back on the wall. He's gone for now, but a man like him never travels alone for long. He'll find someone willing to help for a fistful of dirty dollars. That night, Cole called in the skinny ranch hand named Will. "Ride to town. Find Sheriff Dalton. Tell him trouble's coming." For the first time, Emma managed a small smile. "Thank you, Cole." He nodded. "Rest while you can. We'll talk to the sheriff soon." But even as she laid back down, Cole's eyes were still on the window. He knew that kind of man. Harlan would be back, and next time, he wouldn't come alone. Now, if you've been listening this far, take a breath. Pour yourself a cup of coffee, and tell me, what time is it where you are? Before we ride into the next part of this story, Hit that subscribe button so you don't miss what happens when Harlan comes back for revenge. 3 days passed. The air felt heavy, as if the land itself knew what was coming. Cole had been quiet all morning, mending the corral fence and checking his rifle more times than needed. Emma watched him from the porch, a cup of water in her hands, the silence between them thick with worry. By midday, a thin line of dust rose on the far ridge. 2 riders. Harlan rode in front, his black coat snapping in the wind. Beside him was a tall man in a gray coat, pale and smug. That'll be Slade, the man he planned to sell you to. Emma's fingers tightened around the cup. Cole, what if they come shooting?
He nodded once. Then we shoot straighter. He had spent the night before setting small traps around the ranch, loose boards, trip lines, even a few holes dug just deep enough to twist an ankle. Now he stepped off the porch, rifle in hand, eyes calm and steady. Harlan pulled his horse to a stop. You should have stayed out of this, old man. Cole said nothing. Slade smiled, his teeth yellowed. We ain't here to talk. Hand over the girl, and nobody gets hurt. Cole gave a low chuckle. That's funny. I heard liars talk the same way, right before they die. Slade licked his cracked lips when he saw Emma peek from the window, like a coyote smelling blood. Slade moved first. His gun flashed, the shot splinter in the fence post by the porch. Cole ducked behind the water trough and fired back. The crack echoed across the field. Dust exploded around the horses as they reared and screamed. Emma ducked low inside the cabin, clutching her arm, praying he'd make it. Cole moved fast for a man his age. He fired once, then kicked the rope trigger near the fence. The hidden line snapped tight around Slade's leg, yanking him hard to the ground. He shouted, cursing, just as Cole swung the rifle butt across his jaw. Harlan fired again. The bullet tore through Cole's shoulder like fire. He staggered, blood soaking his shirt. But his eyes never left Harlan. Not today, he growled through clenched teeth, kicking the trip line with his boot. Before Harlan could line up another shot, a shout cut through the air. Drop it! Sheriff Dalton, you're surrounded. 4 mounted men appeared behind the ridge, their badges catching the light. The sheriff and his posse closed in fast. Cole lowered his gun, watching as the lawmen spread out. Emma came out slowly, her face pale, but steady. Cole met her halfway, resting a hand on her arm. It's over, he said softly. But even as the words left his mouth, he knew better. In town, justice had a price, and sometimes the guilty still knew how to buy their freedom. The courthouse in town smelled of sweat and tobacco. Men whispered in the benches, while the sheriff stood tall beside the judge. Harlan Voss sat in chains, eyes dark with hate, and the man called Slade stared at the floor, like the coward he was. Cole stood near the back, hat in his hands, while Emma faced the front, with her chin lifted. When the judge spoke, his voice carried through the whole room. Harlan Voss, you are guilty of attempted assault, abduction, and illegal trafficking. You will serve 20 years in the Oklahoma State Penitentiary. The gavel came down hard. The sound echoed like thunder. Harlan tried to speak, but the sheriff cut him off and led him away. As he passed, his eyes met hers. She did not flinch. She just looked at him, calm and steady, as if all the power he once had over her was gone. Outside, the sky was turning gray. Cole walked with her down the courthouse steps. Neither spoke for a long while. Then Emma said softly, I thought I'd never see a day like this. Cole nodded. Justice takes time, but it shows up when you stand your ground. They rode back toward the ranch as clouds gathered over the Cimarron. When the rain came, it fell soft and slow, washing the dust from the land. Emma looked up at the sky, water running down her cheeks, and for the first time, her smile reached her eyes. Inside the barn, Cole lit a lamp. The light flickered over the walls, warm and steady. Emma turned to him. "You could have left me out there. Why did you help me?" He looked at her for a long second, then said, "Because once someone helped me, and it saved my life." Silence lingered, filled only by the sound of rain on the roof. It was a quiet kind of peace, the kind that only comes after storms. Emma stepped closer, her hand brushing his arm. "Then maybe it's my turn to start helping someone else." Cole smiled, a rare, honest smile. Then this world might just stand a chance. Outside, the storm passed, leaving a quiet silver mist over the plains. Cole watched it drift across the fields, thinking maybe peace was just this, a moment earned, not given. He looked at Emma and saw something new in her eyes. Not fear, but the kind of hope only the broken ever learned to carry. The camera could have faded there, but let's be real. Stories like this don't end. They grow. Every person who chooses kindness keeps the story going. So here's a question for you. If you saw someone like Emma on that prairie, would you stop and help? Would you risk something to do what's right? Think about it while the rain falls. And if this story meant something to you, give it a like so more folks can hear it too. Hit subscribe and stay with us for the next ride through the Old West, where every scar has a story and every heart still hopes for one more sunrise. Now, take a sip of that coffee.